Winners understand that excuses are barriers to progress, not stepping stones. When faced with obstacles, they don't shift blame or look for reasons why something can't be done. They seek solutions. This mindset comes from a deep-rooted belief in personal responsibility. Winners realize that life isn't always fair, but they choose to respond with action, not complaints. They don't allow circumstances, limitations, or failures to define them. Instead of saying, "I didn't have the resources," they ask, "What can I do with what I have?" Every setback becomes a challenge to overcome, not a justification to quit. This relentless accountability empowers them to take control of their destiny. They know that growth only comes through effort, and that by eliminating excuses, they create space for discipline, focus, and consistency. Excuses are easy, but winners choose the harder path of ownership, because that's where real strength is built. Winners don't allow excuses to dilute their drive because they understand that every excuse is a small surrender. They know that excuses create a comfort zone, and nothing great grows in comfort. Rather than saying they're too tired, too busy, or not ready, they prioritize their goals and make time to act. Winners focus on results, not reasons. They've trained their minds to see beyond the initial discomfort and instead focus on the reward that comes from persistence. Even when the odds are stacked against them, they look for opportunities hidden in the struggle. Their mindset doesn't revolve around if only or what if. It revolves around what now and what next. They know that life won't always hand them perfect conditions, so they prepare themselves to work through imperfection. In doing so, they develop a kind of mental toughness that separates them from the rest. Another key trait winners possess is the ability to turn accountability into a strength. They don't just take responsibility when things go right. They own it even when things fall apart. This deep sense of personal ownership means they never wait for someone else to fix the problem or bring the motivation. They become their own source of energy, direction, and discipline. Winners understand that progress is only possible when you stop pointing fingers and start owning your actions. Instead of resenting difficulty, they embrace it, using every failure as feedback, not defeat. They don't shy away from hard truths, because facing those truths is part of their growth. Their honesty with themselves allows them to constantly evolve. In a world where many look for someone else to blame, winners rise by being the first to look in the mirror. And that's what fuels their consistent rise. Winners never rely on excuses because they have mastered the mindset of solution seeking. When something doesn't go their way, they don't dwell on what went wrong or who's at fault. They immediately shift their focus to how they can improve or adapt. This mental flexibility gives them an edge because they don't waste time stuck in the past. They treat challenges as part of the journey, not interruptions to it. Winners understand that setbacks are not signals to stop, they're simply signals to adjust. Excuses delay progress, but winners refuse to stand still. They realize that even if a situation isn't their fault, it's still their responsibility to move forward. That's how they maintain momentum when others fall behind. Their focus is always forward-facing, and their energy is used to build, not to blame. Winners also know that every excuse weakens character. When a person makes a habit of avoiding responsibility, they erode their confidence and discipline over time. Winners protect these two qualities fiercely. They know that the more you rely on excuses, the less you trust yourself. Winners build self-trust by keeping commitments, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one's watching. This consistency builds internal strength. They don't need motivation from others because they've learned to generate it from within. They refuse to let weakness disguise itself as justification. Winners have high standards, and excuses have no place within them. When failure happens, they analyze it, learn from it, and use it as a stepping stone. Excuses may offer temporary relief, but winners choose long-term strength. They know growth comes not from what's easy, but from what's honest, and that honesty begins with themselves. Another crucial aspect is their belief that excuses rob them of control. Winners don't want to feel powerless. They want to feel like they have influence over their destiny. They understand that the moment they give an excuse, They hand over their power to circumstances or people outside themselves. Winners are driven by the idea that their future depends on their actions, not their explanations. This belief system is what separates them from the masses. While others search for reasons to stay the same, winners search for reasons to rise. They build habits that reinforce their control, such as showing up early, preparing thoroughly, and pushing harder when they feel like stopping. They don't rely on luck or sympathy. They rely on their work ethic. Every time they refuse an excuse, they strengthen their grip on their goals. That's how winners stay in control, even in the most uncertain situations. Winners reject excuses because they understand the power of discipline over desire. They know that waiting to feel like it is a trap that leads to inaction. Discipline is their weapon against distraction. While others look for the right mood or perfect moment, winners act regardless of how they feel. They don't let laziness, doubt, or fear dictate their choices. They rise early, stay focused, and commit to consistency. Discipline gives them structure in the chaos and direction in the noise. It's not about perfection, it's about showing up even when it's hard. Winners use discipline to silence excuses. Where others say, "I'll do it tomorrow," they say, "I'll do it now." They value habits over hype, routine over rush, and effort over emotion. The path to greatness is paved with uncomfortable decisions, and winners have trained themselves to choose discipline every time. Winners also rise because they take ownership of their mindset. They understand that the way they think shapes the way they live. Excuses are born from a negative mindset, from fear and limitation. Winners actively train their minds to focus on what's possible rather than what's missing. They replace self-pity with self-belief. They guard their thoughts and expose themselves to growth, learning, and inspiration. They read, reflect, and surround themselves with people who challenge and elevate them. They know they can't control everything in life, but they can control how they respond, and that starts in the mind. Winners condition their thoughts daily so they don't fall into the mental trap of excuses. They don't just think positive, they think purposefully. Every thought is filtered through the lens of their vision. That's how they stay sharp, hungry, and focused in a world full of distractions. Another powerful reason winners don't make excuses is because they've learned to value time. They see time as a non-renewable resource that must be guarded and used wisely. Every excuse wastes time and delays progress. Winners don't tolerate delay. They move with urgency because they understand that lost time can never be reclaimed. Every second spent explaining why something can't be done is a second lost that could have been spent doing it. Winners respect time so much that they cut out anything that doesn't serve their goals, whether it's procrastination, negative influences, or even unproductive habits. They plan their days, prioritize their energy, and take immediate action. Winners don't make excuses because they don't have time to waste. They treat each moment as an opportunity to build, improve, and move forward. This respect for time keeps them sharp, focused, and years ahead of those who delay with reasons. Finally, winners don't make excuses because they've made peace with failure. They don't see failure as something to be ashamed of or hidden behind justifications. Instead, they embrace failure as a necessary part of growth. They take full responsibility for their missteps and use them as valuable learning experiences. When something goes wrong, they don't say, "This happened because of someone else." They say, "What could I have done better?" This ability to own their failure turns their setbacks into strength. They understand that every loss carries a lesson, and by owning the result, they gain the power to improve. Excuses blur that lesson and delay the breakthrough. But winners are hungry to grow. They look at failure with clear eyes and open hearts. They're not interested in pity, they're interested in progress. That's why their failures become fuel, and their journey moves forward stronger and wiser than before. Winners don't entertain excuses because they are deeply committed to their purpose. Their goals are not just wishes or dreams. They are missions that must be completed. This level of purpose creates a fire within them that burns through doubt, laziness, and fear. When you have a clear why, excuses become irrelevant. Winners wake up each day knowing what they're chasing and why it matters. Their purpose is rooted in something deeper than convenience. It's tied to their identity, their values, and their vision for the future. This clarity gives them the strength to keep moving even when they're tired, misunderstood, or underestimated. Excuses cannot survive in the presence of true purpose. Winners don't need to be pushed. They are pulled forward by the gravity of what they are called to do. They don't let anything steal their focus, because their mission is bigger than their comfort. Another reason winners reject excuses is that they view pressure as a privilege. They don't run from high expectations. They rise to meet them. While others fear responsibility, winners welcome it because they know that pressure reveals potential. They trust their ability to adapt and overcome. Excuses are often used to escape pressure, but winners lean into it. They understand that diamonds are formed under pressure, and so are champions. The more responsibility they take on, the more they grow. Winners choose to be the ones people can count on. They don't crumble when it gets tough. They shine. They don't say, "This is too much." They say, "This is exactly what I've trained for." That mindset is what sets them apart. It's not that they never feel pressure. It's that they've learned to convert it into power, using it as fuel instead of fear. Winners also eliminate excuses because they operate from a long-term perspective. They understand that short-term comfort often leads to long-term regret. Excuses may offer relief today, but they steal results tomorrow. Winners are playing the long game. They're not obsessed with immediate gratification. They're building something that lasts. This mindset makes them patient, persistent, and focused. While others quit because results don't come fast enough, winners stay the course because they know real success takes time. They're willing to be misunderstood, to work in silence, and to delay rewards because they have faith in the process. Their vision is too important to be derailed by temporary emotions or challenges. Excuses fade when you're fixed on a future that matters. Winners don't just want to win today. They want to win for life. That's why they remain consistent, even when no one's watching and nothing seems to be working. Winners also know that making excuses limits their influence. They understand that people are always watching, whether it's family, teammates, employees, or even strangers. Winners lead by example. They know that every excuse they make sends a message, and they want that message to be one of strength, not surrender. They take pride in being reliable, in being the one who gets it done no matter what. They know that leadership isn't about titles. It's about responsibility and consistency. People don't follow words, they follow actions. So winners refuse to model weakness. They model grit, persistence, and character. They don't just want to achieve for themselves. They want to inspire others to rise. And excuses don't inspire. Responsibility does. By living without excuses, winners raise the standard for everyone around them. Finally, winners have an internal standard that's higher than any external demand. They don't rely on rules, rewards, or recognition to give their best. They do it because it's who they are. Their work ethic comes from within. They are driven by a desire to honor their potential, to live fully, and to never settle for mediocrity. Excuses don't fit into that equation. Winners don't wait to be held accountable. They hold themselves accountable. Whether they're in the spotlight or completely alone, their effort remains the same. They don't need applause to do what's right. Their commitment is not situational. It's part of their identity. They do the work because excellence is their standard. That's what makes them different. That's what makes them winners. Winners don't make excuses because they have learned the value of consistency over intensity. They understand that one big effort followed by weeks of inactivity will never produce meaningful results. What truly matters is showing up every single day, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Excuses break consistency, and winners can't afford that. They don't rely on rare bursts of energy. They rely on discipline and steady progress. They know that excellence isn't built in a day, but through hundreds of days of showing up when no one's watching. Consistency becomes their secret weapon. While others burn out chasing short-term wins, winners build momentum through repeated effort. They respect the process and stay committed regardless of how they feel. For them, showing up is non-negotiable. It's a reflection of who they are, not just what they do. Winners don't make excuses because they've trained their emotions, not to suppress them, but to keep them from taking control. Emotions are real, but winners don't let emotions dictate outcomes. When things get tough, when they're angry, frustrated, or discouraged, they don't run to excuses as emotional relief. Instead, they take a breath, face the situation, and respond with clarity. They know emotions can cloud judgment and weaken resolve. So they've practiced the art of emotional discipline. That means not quitting just because it feels hard, not blaming others when they feel disappointed, and not avoiding action because fear creeps in. Winners acknowledge how they feel, but they refuse to be ruled by it. They've built the maturity to continue forward in the face of emotional storms. Excuses are often emotional reactions. Winners choose intentional action instead. Winners also don't make excuses because they understand the connection between action and confidence. They know that the more they take action, the more capable and confident they become. Excuses rob them of this growth. Every time someone avoids a challenge with an excuse, they lose a little belief in themselves. But when winners face challenges head-on and push through fear or doubt, they strengthen their self-image. Confidence doesn't come from compliments or comfort. It comes from doing the hard things and proving to yourself that you can. Winners build confidence brick by brick through consistent effort and ownership. Excuses weaken identity while action builds it. That's why winners stay focused on doing rather than defending. They would rather fail and learn than avoid and wonder. Every step forward, no matter how small, strengthens their mindset, their belief, and their edge. Another reason winners don't rely on excuses is because they hold themselves to a higher standard than the world does. They don't wait for someone else to push them, pressure them, or demand more from them. They demand more from themselves. This self-imposed standard means they are often their own toughest critic, but also their most loyal coach. They review their efforts honestly, take feedback seriously, and always look for ways to improve. Winners don't look around to see what others are doing. They look inward to see what they could do better. They don't compare. They evaluate. That's how they grow. Excuses would lower that standard. They would give them a reason to accept less than their best. But winners refuse to lower the bar, even when life gets difficult. They raise it because their vision demands it. Winners don't make excuses because they see obstacles as opportunities, not opposition. They've reframed struggle in their minds. Instead of seeing difficulties as reasons to stop, they see them as necessary steps on the path to greatness. Each problem is a puzzle to solve. Each setback is a setup for a comeback. Winners don't expect the path to be smooth. They expect it to test them. And they welcome that test because they know it's shaping them into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable. Where others complain, winners get curious. They ask, "What can this teach me?" instead of "Why is this happening to me?" That mindset shift keeps them moving forward when others retreat. It's not that they enjoy struggle, but they understand its purpose. That understanding fuels their resilience and in turn eliminates the need for excuses. Lastly, winners don't make excuses because they understand that their legacy is being written every single day. Every action, every choice, every response to adversity becomes a part of the story they're telling the world and themselves. Excuses write a story of limitation. Winners want their story to be one of courage, grit, and triumph. They're building a reputation, not just for others, but for their future selves. When they look back, they don't want to see a trail of missed chances and justifications. They want to see a legacy of effort, integrity, and impact. That long-term vision pushes them to act in the present with purpose and strength. Winners live with the awareness that every day counts. They move with intention because they're not just living. They're leading, building, and inspiring. Excuses have no place in that kind of life. Winners don't make excuses because they understand that personal growth requires total responsibility. They know that in order to grow, evolve, and rise to their full potential, they must own every part of their journey, the good and the bad. Excuses are a way to avoid accountability, to place the blame outside themselves. But winners are not interested in blame. They are interested in becoming better. They know that as long as they make excuses, they give away the power to change. By taking full responsibility, they keep control over their own improvement. They don't say, "It's because of them." They say, "What can I do differently?" They are not afraid to confront their own flaws because they see them as opportunities for development. That kind of radical ownership separates winners from the rest. It gives them the ability to adapt faster, learn quicker, and grow stronger. They are not perfect, but they are willing to be honest, and that's where real change begins. Winners eliminate excuses because they're focused on outcomes, not obstacles. They don't waste energy talking about what's in the way, they focus on how to get past it. While others stop to explain why something didn't work, winners are already moving to find another way. They believe that where there is a will, there is always a way. They treat challenges as steps, not stop signs. Their mind is wired to look for solutions, to stay resourceful and resilient even when everything seems against them. They don't freeze in difficulty. They move through it. Their forward-focused attitude doesn't leave room for excuses, because their mind is too busy creating answers. Whether it's a lack of time, support, or resources, winners find a way to maximize what they have. They don't let what's missing become an excuse. They use it as motivation to work harder, smarter, and more creatively. Winners also reject excuses because they know that what you tolerate becomes your standard. If you allow excuses once, you've opened the door for weakness to creep in. Winners guard that door. They understand that excuses don't just affect one decision, they begin to shape who you are. One skipped workout becomes two. One missed deadline becomes a pattern. Winners refuse to tolerate that decline. They hold themselves to a higher code, not out of arrogance, but out of a commitment to excellence. Their self-respect is built on keeping promises to themselves. They don't make excuses because they know that each one chips away at their self-discipline. And once discipline fades, progress stops. That's why winners are ruthless when it comes to excuses. They don't even let them take root. They act quickly, stay sharp, and don't allow compromise to become habit. Winners don't make excuses because they've trained their identity around action. They see themselves as doers, achievers, and finishers. Their self-image is built around execution. They don't just want to be known for potential. They want to be known for results. And to get results, you can't afford to make excuses. Excuses are an escape from action. And winners don't run from action. They run toward it. Every time they act despite difficulty, they reinforce their identity as someone who gets things done. They take pride in being dependable, in being the person others can count on. They don't talk about what they will do. They just do it. This action-based identity gives them strength because their confidence isn't based on theory. It's based on experience. They know what they're capable of because they've proved it over and over through real work, not empty promises. Another key reason winners don't give in to excuses is because they've mastered the art of delayed gratification. They understand that success isn't instant. It takes time, sacrifice, and patience. Excuses are often rooted in the desire for comfort right now, but winners are willing to be uncomfortable in the short term to secure the reward in the long term. They say no to distractions, no to shortcuts, and no to anything that could cost them the future they want. They know it's not about how fast they go. It's about how far they're willing to go. They're not interested in looking successful. They're committed to becoming successful. That's why they train, work, and grind without needing applause. They delay the reward because they know that the longer the wait, the greater the payoff. Excuses don't tempt them because they've trained their minds to value long-term gain over short-term relief. Winners don't make excuses because they see failure as feedback, not finality. When they fall short, they don't need an excuse to protect their ego. Instead, they analyze what went wrong and adjust. They treat failure as a necessary part of winning. This mindset frees them from the fear of judgment. They're not embarrassed to fail. They're embarrassed not to try. Excuses are often created to protect pride, but winners aren't driven by ego. They're driven by purpose. That's why they're okay with falling as long as they fall forward. They take lessons from every mistake and use them to fuel their comeback. That humility allows them to evolve rapidly. They never waste time justifying why they didn't win. They spend that time preparing to win next time. That's how they stay in motion while others get stuck in the past. Lastly, winners don't make excuses because they are future-focused. Their attention is locked on where they're going, not what went wrong. Excuses keep people stuck in yesterday. Winners live in tomorrow. They are guided by vision. Everything they do is filtered through the lens of where they want to be. That focus gives them clarity and direction. When others are distracted by setbacks, they stay locked in on the bigger picture. Excuses pull attention backward, but vision pulls winners forward. They choose thoughts, habits, and actions that align with their future, not their fears. Every day is a step towards something greater, and they don't have time to waste justifying inaction. They know what they do today echoes into tomorrow. That belief keeps them accountable, focused, and immune to excuses.